From your secret friend.
Underneath the bridge,
Who?
top has sprung a leak, and the animals I've trapped
Haven't a clue.
all become my pet.
Let's play a game. Just me and you. Any of this mean anything to you?
If you are justice, please do not lie. What is the price for your blind eye?
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
How's it going, everyone, and welcome to the High Voltage Media channel. We're going to be breaking down the release of the Batman teaser trailer that came out yesterday for DC FanDome. And joining me is Andres Gallego, aka Gallegos.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
All right, so obviously this was, no pun intended, a batshit crazy trailer. We thought the Snyder Cut trailer was going to be the thing. Like, we were going to be talking about it endlessly. And, we talked about it.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is that we weren't expecting, like, for the Snyder Cut trailer, we were expecting a full-on trailer. For Batman, we were expecting maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds of footage, maybe, because they're only about 25% of the way through the shoot. We got a full-on trailer. Like, we got a full-on teaser trailer.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm with you. I thought we were going to, okay, Reeves put the logo type. He posted the picture of, the Batman, of his version of Batman, his rendering of Batman with the red and the black that looked great.
Yeah.
I thought, too, we were going to get like 20 seconds, maybe 30, just like a very brief thing, like kind of similar to what we got with the Robert Pattinson reveal a couple months ago, where, they had the narration, then he was in the red light, and he just turned. I thought that's what we were going to get. But no, we got this incredible. It's been a while since I've seen a trailer that was that incredible, that just perfect from head to toe. You know what I mean? Like we're, as soon as it's over, you forget about it. You just want to hit the replay button again and again and again and again.
I've lost track of how many times I've watched that trailer, and it's probably the last time that's happened to me with a trailer was the Watchmen trailer. That was over 12 years ago, too. Which was also in front of a Batman movie as well.
That was in front of Dark Knight. That's right. Yeah. No, that Watchmen trailer is legendary. The first trailer for the Dark Knight that came out with I Am Legend. That was also like, oh my, because that's when we first got our real look at Heath as the Joker and what he's going to sound like, what his laugh's going to sound like. And I remember just, oh my God, the replay button got worn out on YouTube.
And the cool thing about when that trailer premiered was that did simultaneously the same thing that this trailer is doing for all the Rob Pattinson haters that it did for the Heath Ledger haters. It dropped the mic on them and just showed you, this is what these actors are capable of.
And with one line, you won over all the skeptics, all the naysayers with just one line delivery. That you know what? Let's just get right into it.
Yeah.
Why don't you give me your three favorite moments or takeaways from the trailer?
All right. Well, probably one of my biggest takeaways from the trailer so far is it's set in a much more grounded and grittier version of Gotham that we've never seen before. You look at the Nolan films, there's a certain level of, whimsy is probably the wrong word to use for it, but there's a sense of lightness to the earlier scenes with Bruce in the flashbacks where he's a kid. Like, you see the city is so full of life. There's a lot of color to it. Whereas the Gotham in this particular version of the trailer so far that we've seen feels very stylized, and it feels more akin to a David Fincher 7, where it's constantly raining, it's foreboding in the background, and also all the scenes that take place in broad daylight still look overcasty as all hell, and it still looks oppressive, which we've never gotten in the Batman film before. We've never gotten that in the Gotham City before. Even with the Burton films, I mean, you still got a sense of like, there's a highly stylized nature to it, but you never got the sense of dread or the sense of danger of living in this city. And in this trailer alone, in the first couple of seconds, that is so ever present. And you know, it's kudos to Matt Reeves for coming up with that vision of Gotham. And that was probably one of the biggest things I took away from the trailer right off the bat was this feels like a Gotham that we've never seen before. And it feels different than what every interpretation has done.
I agree with you 100%. And you took the words right out of my mouth. The first thing I thought when I saw the trailer, aside from the fact that having Nirvana and Batman together is just mind-blowingly brilliant, is that it did look like Fincher's Seven. It looked exactly like Fincher's Seven. From the incredibly oppressive nature to Gotham, which, you know, it's the same thing in Seven, the unnamed city. It's just incredible. It's like, you know, it's just breathing down your neck.
Yeah.
And that's how this Gotham City feels. And now you mentioned with the Nolan films, and you briefly mentioned the Burton films. I think that the look of it resembles a Nolan film blended in with a Burton Batman film, in the sense that the Gotham in this trailer looks very realistic, but like you said, it's very Gothic and it is stylized. It feels almost like the movie is set in, like, you know, I mean, they filmed the movie in London and around the UK, but you get that feeling that it is almost like a 19th century London, you know, very, you know, very like kind of like Sleepy Hollow in a way, you know, like a Victorian era England, London. It had that feeling to it in the architecture, and like you said, we've never seen that before. Not in a Batman film, obviously. I mean, period pieces we have, but it was a very interesting way to go about it. And like you said, just, I mean, no glimpses whatsoever of sunlight or anything. Just incredibly oppressive, and the overcast nature to it, the rain, very, very dark and brooding atmosphere right off the bat. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I mean, honestly, we kept saying, you know, Batman Returns is very dark, and it is. Dark Knight is very dark. It is. Batman versus Superman, very, very dark, of course. But this looks like it's just like, no. We're going to take it a step further. Like, you guys keep thinking you've reached as dark as you can get. No, we're going to make it darker yet. Almost kind of like it's set in the same Gotham as Joker in a way. Kind of like, you know, not a 1970s New York, but like the same kind of grit to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that they crushed, one of the rumors that they crushed automatically with the trailer as well, is that this film is not set in the 80s or the 90s. It's set in present day, as you see there are various thugs that use smartphones, and also in the scene where Batman just, in the fight scene, you see people using cameras and camera phones and stuff like that. So that automatically clarifies right then and there that this is a modern day Batman, which is great. But the thing is, with this Gotham, what it does, it complements the timeless nature of the city, and it complements just how much Gotham is sort of just, not only is it stuck in time in terms of the architecture, in terms of the look, but it's also stuck in time in terms of the consciousness of people, where it's like, you know, where is that town in particular? Like, it sort of feels like the world has abandoned that city, and we're as unfamiliar with it as all the other characters in the universe are. So I think that's a big thing to establish with the atmosphere and with the nature of the film as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And actually, just for something that I read yesterday, I can't remember if it was Vanity Fair or whatever it was, but they did an interview with Matt Reeves where he talked about his influences for how he was going to approach this material, make it fresh. And, you know, judging by your nod, you read it as well. And he provided, you know, the 70s noirs, thrillers, mysteries, Chinatown.
Yeah.
The French Connection. You know, films like that where they're, you know, very gritty in the sense of Chinatown, a guy who's completely in over his head, and he starts discovering how corrupt the city is. He starts uncovering these various conspiracies that end up being true. I kind of love that aspect, that he's going with a complete, because, I mean, Batman's called the world's greatest detective.
Yeah.
And aside from a couple scenes here and there in previous movies, we've never really seen that side to him. We've seen it a little bit in The Dark Knight when he was analyzing the bullet found in the wall in the apartment.
Which is kind of a little far-fetched if you really look at it. Like, how do you rebuild a bullet like that? Like, there were certain leaps that you had to take in terms of just, all right, well, it's a Batman film. Come on, we kind of need to move forward with it. But from everything I've heard about from Matt Reeves in particular, and again with the Chinatown references, and also just real quick, if Matt Reeves was to do a TED Talk on fucking talking about Batman, I would watch that. Like, I was watching the DC fan event yesterday, and his entire panel, it felt like someone who knew the material and understood it not only at a technical level, but understood it at an emotional level, and in terms of what makes Batman the character that he is, which we've heard Nolan talk about it before, we've heard Burton talk about it before, but definitely it feels like Reeves is coming at it from a more character-based perspective. And it feels like he has a better handle on the character. Not necessarily to say that Nolan didn't have a handle on the character, but Nolan decided to focus on certain elements and, the scale and the epicness of it. And also just in terms of how it connects in with the city and stuff like that. But for some reason, Reeves tends to talk about it in a very, 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 not linear based, but in a very focused way, if that makes any sense.
I thought you were going to say that, and I haven't heard him speak. I mean, again, I read what he was talking about, but that doesn't surprise me, because even if you look at his previous films, minus the pallbearer, look at Cloverfield, look at Let Me In, look at the 2 Planet of the Apes movies he's done. He is very, very focused on characters and making sure that their arcs are maybe not in the case of Planet of the Apes, because he probably knew that he was going to come back to do a third one. So, but you can see a clear arc in one single movie.
Yeah.
And he spends so much time getting the audience to relate to the characters, and if not relate, at least understand where they're coming from. Maybe not have empathy, but have understanding. So I think with Caesar. Even Woody Harrelson's character in War for the Planet of the Apes, as despicable as he is, you learn about him and you discover why he has this resentment towards the apes. Let Me In, the job he did directing the kids and kind of fleshing out their relationship was great. And even in Cloverfield, what he's able to do with such a chaotic film, the handheld movie, but still have the comedic relief, the relationship there where he's essentially going and he's risking his life to save his ex-girlfriend, and the relationships between each other when he loses his brother and he's with his brother's girlfriend. He's incredible with character. He's great at writing character. He's great at fleshing out characters. He's one of the best in Hollywood as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he's also one of the best in terms of focusing in on the difference between character and location. Like, some people will look at Cloverfield as like, oh, it's a monster film. It's a monster film that takes place in New York. To Reeves, that's not what it is. What the film is, first and foremost, is a movie about a guy trying to get back to the woman that he loves, that he basically just abandoned, and there's chaos happening all around him. So it's a love story for him at the very end. And even with Let Me In, it's not a vampire film for him. It's a film about a misunderstood boy that society is basically just left on and basically just gets shit on every 10 seconds. It's a movie about a connection between a boy and a girl, but this girl happens to be a vampire. And and also people kind of went, well, Reeves is kind of a weird choice for Batman. And the thing is, when you look at Caesar's arc, especially in part 1, especially in Dawn and in War for Planet of the Apes, everything that plays in the Caesar as a character is very similar to Batman in terms of finding out that you can't trust the system that you're a part. You can't trust some of the people that you're a part of with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where the Koba reveal and yeah, and then also on top of that, just the nature of revenge in war, that he loses everything, and how much of your soul do you sacrifice in terms of getting that justice. And that plays heavily into the character of Batman. And just knowing that he did such a strong arc for Caesar in War with the vengeance theme, I'm so excited and so pumped to see what he does with Batman's arc.
I again, you said it all. I have nothing to say on that. I mean, it would just be redundant for me to just reiterate every point you made. But yeah, I mean, and you know what's interesting? I can't believe that there were people who were skeptical about Matt Reeves taking over Batman, because I feel like the only people who would be skeptical about that are people who don't watch his movies.
Yeah.
You would think all of his films are dark, and tonally and atmospherically, every way they are very, very dark films. A lot of them push the boundaries of what an audience would be willing to sit through in terms of an emotional kick to the stomach. I'm specifically the Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah.
And even more specific, War for the Planet of the Apes. Because I think he pushed the limits of what PG-13 could show you, and he really dragged his audience through just an emotional wallop in that movie. I mean, that is a very draining movie. As much spectacle as there is, and as beautiful as it is, in a very it's not beautiful in the sense that, you know, you think of like Avatar or Life of Pi as being a beautiful movie, but there are some shots, there are some moments in there that affect you in ways that, you know, standard spectacle can't, in terms of how he shoots it and lights it and the music in the background. I mean, he is, for only having 5 films to his name, well, 6 now with the Batman, but for having 5 films that we've seen to his name, I consider him to be a master filmmaker, really. I think he's one of our best filmmakers we have going right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you look at any one of those Planet of the Apes films, like the biggest scene that comes to my head in both of those films are smaller scale moments with the characters themselves. Like for me, Dawn, it's easily the interaction that he has with Koba in the dam, where, you know, Koba and him are having that, you know, confrontation that's completely character based. And the other one is the scene where in War, the scene where the apes are coming together with Nova handing the food back and forth, and it's such a small, tender moment, but it says so much about every single one of the characters, including Caesar, including him getting rid of his prejudice towards the humans, and including him sort of finding strength again. And again, that's all stuff that, take that and put it in a Batman film. Oh my God. This, like, as soon as I finished watching the trailer, there was a moment where I literally just went, this could be the Batman film I've been waiting for my entire life. Like, as much as I loved Batman Begins and as much as I loved Dark Knight, there was always some small part of me that went, you could go a little further with it.
And you could also make it more comic booky. I mean, Batman Begins feels the most like a comic book out of the 3 Nolan films.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Knight feels like he's going, you know, full on Michael Mann, and then Dark Knight Rises feels like he's trying to do his best David Lean impression, and not quite pulling it off. But I agree. And again, we're not knocking previous Batman movies. You know, we talk about how much we love, you know, Burton's Batmans. We even make excuses for Batman Forever. We talk about, you know, the Nolan films. Look on your wall. I mean, Batman vs Superman. We love the Ultimate Cut. I mean, we love the Batman films, the animated series. But like you said, there's something about this trailer that just it's setting us up for something that, for a character that has been done to death. There's still so much we can plumb from this, that Matt Reeves can plumb from this and give us such a fresh and interesting perspective on the character and the world he lives in. I want to touch on this just briefly before we close out. We got a tiny glimpse of the villains in the trailer. We got a glimpse of Paul Dano's Riddler, Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, Colin Farrell's Penguin. And for those of you who didn't see Colin Farrell's Penguin, watch the trailer again for the hell of it, and you'll see him underneath all the makeup. I feel, going back to the Seven reference, seeing what they're doing with Paul Dano's character, what he's doing, he feels like a serial killer, and almost kind of like the John Doe serial killer in Seven. Mm-hmm. Doesn't it? I mean, like to taping the tape around the guy's face and saying "No more lies," no more lies. That feels like something that John Doe would have done in terms of like torturing his victims and kind of leaving a scene behind, you know, not nearly as grotesque or as graphic as Seven, because that's on a that's on a whole other level. But it does feel like that, especially with, you know, taunting him with, you know, letters, you know, and the riddles coming up. What was your biggest takeaway from the villains? Which one are you more? I mean, I think I know what you're going to say, but I feel like asking anyway. What is the one villain you're looking forward to seeing the most?
I mean, automatically right off the bat, the one I'm looking forward to the most of seeing is, of course, Paul Dano's Riddler.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, here's the thing. As soon as Paul Dano was cast as the Riddler, there was a certain part of the fandom that was like, oh, that guy, that was called that boyish-looking guy is going to be playing the Riddler? Like, you know, that's kind of stupid. But people don't remember, or people have forgotten about his amazing performance in There Will Be Blood.
Incredible.
Which, it was an incredible performance, which everyone goes, oh, well, you know what? He basically played a dude that just kept getting slapped all the way through the movie, and oh, that guy's going to be playing the Riddler. It's like, okay, but here's another one. Look at Prisoners, where he plays someone who, even mentally, he's not there, but there's something stoic and there's something just very, very unsettling about his performance all the way through. And if you want to go into the serial killer aspect of his character, look at his small little role in Taking Lives back in 2004. He's someone who it wouldn't occur to you to play the Riddler, but when you see all those bits and you see that moment in the trailer, it makes so much sense. And I think he's gearing to give us something that will make us uncomfortable in our seats, that will differentiate himself drastically from everything Jim Carrey has done or Frank Gorshin has done. So it's a completely new take on the character, but it feels very much in line with who the Riddler is as a person. I mean, even down to the riddles in the trailer. I mean, some of the riddles in the trailer look like, okay, that looks like it's going to take a little bit, like everything Riddler based looks like it's going to take some mental power, and it's going to look like it's going to take the world's greatest detective to take him down in this film.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like it was kind of a dumb question because, I mean, that's the obvious one. But I will say this. I am interested to see how Zoe Kravitz is going to make, you know, Catwoman unique to her. Hopefully it's better than Anne Hathaway. And as far as Colin Farrell as the Penguin, God, you know, I thought, I was like, God, you know, Colin Farrell as the Penguin, okay, whatever. I mean, is he going to gain weight? Is he going to be under makeup? And then for the brief time you see him, you know, he looks nothing like Colin Farrell. It's kind of amazing. It's like, yeah, you hired the actor, but you're going with a completely different face. And indeed, I mean, from the sound of it, you can't hear Colin. I mean, I could hear Paul Dano in the trailer. I couldn't hear Colin Farrell in the trailer. Like, that sounded like a completely different, you know, maniac. And one other thing, Matt Reeves did say that, you know, they were talking about the three villains. And he mentioned, he's like, oh, by the way, our Penguin, yeah, he's known as the Penguin. He's referred to as Penguin, but he hates being called the Penguin. So if you call him Penguin to his face. So I'm looking forward to seeing like Colin Farrell have a couple, you know, meltdowns and outbursts at somebody who calls him the Penguin and just goes batshit crazy. But yeah, I mean, we could talk about this for another hour, but yeah, incredible trailer. Looking forward to the movie. Obviously, it's a shame that, you know, we have to wait just a little bit longer because, you know, we were going to get it June 2021. Now we have to wait until October 2021. But hey, it comes out October 1st, 2021, October 8th birthday, whatever. And and I got Joker October 4th last year, so hey, whatever.
Seems like a good sweet spot for the DC movies to come out.
Early birthday gift, whatever. Yeah, and we get Wonder Woman comes out October 3rd this year.
Yeah.
So it seems like DC is kind of like, hey, the first week of October, that's our window now.
Hey,
why not? Why not? You get out of the summer slugfest and you kind of get a whole month to yourself, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah,
and that's that's the other thing too with this film. This was supposed to come out in June of next year, and watching that entire trailer, it did not feel like a summer film at all. It felt like a fall film, absolutely. Like, it felt like something that you wouldn't push out to the public during the middle of blockbuster summer season. Like, it
looked like a horror movie. It looked like a horror movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's one thing I do want to touch on before we take off, and that is Rob Pattinson as Batman. What do you think so far?
I think he looks great. He sounds great. And I gotta tell you, just from the trailer, I think he's going to do a fantastic job. I mean, now that we've gotten to look at him and heard him and seen him move and all that stuff, and seen the anguish on his face in certain scenes, that is what sold me. Not necessarily him in the suit, not necessarily him beating the ever living shit out of someone and saying "I am vengeance." It was the shot at the very end of the trailer where he had finally the black eye makeup. Finally, that's been missing in all of them. Having the black eye makeup and looking like he's, either been sweating profusely or whatever, and just looking like he is on the brink of madness himself. Either that the Riddler is pushing him to the edge of his mental sanity or what, but that's what sold me. Without saying a word, as great as that one delivery, "I am vengeance" is, without saying a word, he was able to convey so much. And that is a staple in a lot of Matt Reeves' movies, is being able to convey a lot of emotion without saying anything. And that runs through, I don't know about all of them, but most of his movies. What about you? What'd you think?
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought he was incredible so far. I mean, the one thing that got me right off the bat is seeing how him in the costume, how he carries himself. And when you think of Rob Pattinson, you think of, I mean, come on, let's just be frank. The Twilight dude, and all of a sudden, it's like, you just sort of think like kid. And then you see him in the trailer, and he's standing tall amongst all these people, and you're kind of like, oh man, that really does look like Batman. And that really, everything about him really does carry Batman. And even just the way he carries his version of Bruce in the scene or at least the moment in the trailer where the freaking car comes bashing in through the funeral. And, there's that moment, it kind of sparked that moment in Batman vs. Superman where Bruce Wayne is running towards the smoke, and you see all these people running away from the bomb in the background. You just see Bruce just standing right there, focused on that letter to Batman. And I'm like, yep, that is a Bruce Wayne moment right there. And then also the other thing too, like you mentioned with the black eye makeup, finally we got that. But it only took someone like Matt Reeves to realize how you can use that as a character-defining moment. Because at the end of the trailer, it looks great when it looks like he's being pushed to the brink of madness, and it looks like the makeup is blending in with him. But the thing is, there's a great shot in the beginning of the trailer where he's standing outside of this press conference, and he's on the bike, and you clearly see that he's got the eye makeup on underneath the mask and the helmet. And I think that's also a big staple in terms of connecting the audience to, that is not Bruce that's sitting out there. It's Batman sitting out there. He's just not in the cowl. He's not in the suit. It's another way for you to differentiate how that character is still coming through in smaller ways here and there. And also on top of that, it looks freaking great. It looks amazing so far what he's doing. And it really connects in with his psyche. And I'm just so for that. And I was so pleasantly surprised by how great just the addition of the eye makeup adds to the character when you've heard Burton or you've heard even Nolan and even Snyder to a certain extent say, oh, well, it looks silly when we did it. And then Matt Reeves like, no, I'm going to make it work.
And he did make it work. So, yeah, can't wait for it, man. Can't wait for it. Hell of a trailer.
Oh, great trailer.
Currently number one on trending.
Oh, yeah, currently number one trending, and it's currently my most anticipated movie of 2021.
There you go.
By a long shot.
I couldn't agree more. No disrespect to the Snyder Cut, but 2021, The Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that'll do it over here for us over at High Voltage Media. Do you have any parting thoughts, or were those your parting thoughts?
Great trailer. Can't wait to see it. So, yeah, those are my parting thoughts right there.
Same here. And thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Cheers.
You're part of this too.
How am I part of this?
You'll see.